In a world where everything is changing, one man is set to
Welcome, it's your friendly neighborhood Badger here, and I'm back with the first build guide in my speculative starter series for the upcoming Harvest League. Introducing the QUAKENER. A Bleed Earthquake Gladiator capable of causing rifts so deep you end up pushing the Diablo 3 ladder. Got a hankering for beefy boys with big muscles? Look no further, as this Gladiator holds a double permit for these guns. Before we get started, as patch notes aren't out for the upcoming Harvest League, this build is subject to slight change, but has been crafted in such a way that it is almost immune to nerfs. In fact, with the buffs to slam skills and war cries, this build will potentially perform even stronger than shown in this video. Any necessary skill tree and gear changes that need to be made after patch notes will be updated in the description below. League starting can always be tough, but the QUAKENER excels at progressing quickly through the storyline and maps without any necessary unique items or expensive gear. The Gladiator Ascendancy helps immensely both with offense and defense, and you can even customize this build down to the type of weapon, such as mace or axe, or even one-handed shield for max block or two-handed weapon for insane damage. The bleed mechanic keeps you extremely safe, as you can apply massive bleed ailments to enemies while kiting around and staying healthy. This build in general is hardcore viable, but especially the max block variant. The gameplay you are seeing behind you here is of an extremely budget version of this build, with level 4 skill gems and hardly any supplementing links, but you can still see how manly and macho this powerhouse is. Like all of my build guides, we will begin with the budget gear and links, and then move on to the endgame gear and links, to show you the progression of this character. Below, you can find the color bar for easy navigation between sections, so feel free to click back and forth if you missed anything. And if you've got any other further questions, don't hesitate to come ask me on stream at twitch.tv/thisisbadgergaming. I stream most days from 11 AM GMT. But enough of the shameless self-promotion. Let's crack this ground open and fall right in, shall we? Due to the amount of variation in the QUAKENER build through one-handed and two-handed using different types of weapons, we're going to focus on the budget builds first and then the endgame builds with gear and links. Starting off, we're going to be starting with the budget one-handed QUAKENER version. We're doing things a little bit differently this time through Path of Building because there is so much to cover, so I'm going to go through everything step by step and you can follow along. If you need to have a look at the paste bin, everything is down below. If you want to skip to the passive skill trees, you can zip forward. But first of all, the one-handed QUAKENER. For the budget version of this build, as you can see over here, all of our items are rare. We do have quite a few cluster jewels, but we also have a full tree that does not include cluster jewels, which is what we are going to focus on first, just with a couple of rare jewels here. The only uniques are a couple of unique flasks, which are not necessary either. It's very SSF friendly. First of all, for the budget endgame weapon, a bit of a oxymoron there, but once you get to endgame, a very easy weapon to craft is an Elder Siege Axe for the one-handed. This will give you, if you roll it correctly, a 60% chance for bleeding inflicted with this weapon to deal 100% more damage, the best mod for bleeding. If you're struggling a little bit, you can also get a Jack the Axe Vile Hatchet, which is a unique weapon. If you're playing in a trade league, this should be very, very easy to obtain. Going on to the shield, you're pretty much looking for a shield just with good life and some resistances. Right here I've just got Chaos Res because I've got resistances on every other piece of gear, and you can also get some global physical damage on the shield as well. Other differences for the shield is the Surrender Esmite Tower shield, but this is not quite budget. This is a little bit more expensive, but you can move towards this one for great block and great damage coming out of all of your blocks. But we'll move just straight back to the Pinnacle Tower shield. Then moving on to all of the gear, we're basically just on our gear pretty much just looking for health and resistances. That's all you really need on the budget version of this build, and you're still going to be able to climb through the end game very, very quickly. So as you can see here, our helmet is just looking for a little bit of life, some resistances. We've got an astral plate here with some resistances and life and percentage life. We've got some Titan gauntlets here with some Chaos Res, some health. As you can see, as we keep going through here, it's just life and resistances. Pretty much straight down into this as well. The unset ring, a little bit of physical damage on the rings as well is very helpful, and actually pretty easy to roll if you get some good life, a little bit of resistances, and some physical damage. And same with our topaz ring here, capping all of our resistances. As you can see down here with the fire, cold, and lightning res, we are massively overcapped. I have overcompensated, so it's going to be very, very easy for you to collect all of this gear. And finishing off with a good belt with some good life, a bit of armor, and that's pretty much it. Just make sure you have a little bit of intelligence on your gear and a little bit of dexterity on your gear, just to make sure that you can get everything sorted for all of your links. Which does bring us to the skills themselves. For the one-handed version of the QUAKENER, first of all, we are going to be talking about the main skill. The main skill, obviously, we've talked about, we are using Earthquake. If you can get your hands on a Vile Earthquake, that's even better for clear, but straight away you can just use main Earthquake. Straight away we're going to be linking this to less duration, brutality, and deadly ailments is your minimum 4-link. I do have labeled up here, the new support Fist of War will be replacing Melee Fizz, so as a 5th link, you'll be using the Fist of War support. Obviously, I can't showcase this right now, but I'm just going to put a little bit of a clip up about there of what GGG has already shown of the Fist of War support, but it's just going to be really, really great for your damage. If you do have a 6th link, you can go for Swift Affliction, just faster bleeds and getting those bosses down as quickly as possible. This is socketed in your body armor. Obviously, it's the only place a 6th link can be on a one-handed character. Next, we have the setup for our auras, which are Pride and Flesh and Stone, with Flesh and Stone being linked to Maim. This can just be in one of our 3 links, either our weapon or our shield. Now, Maim linked to Flesh and Stone only gives a little bit more mana reservation, but it does give quite a lot more damage output of Flesh and Stone when you are near enemies, which is really, really helpful. And Pride's just going to help with your physical damage, regardless of pretty much everything. We can then move on to a 4-link, where we have our War Banner. Just another aura that we have sitting there. And then these don't have to be linked. They're all separate. War Banner, Blood Rage for a little bit of attack speed while clearing and some frenzy charges. And then Ancestral Protector for bossing. We have a 4th link here that you can put anything in that you would like to. We then move on to another 4-link, which is a Cast When Damage Taken setup in a 2-link of Cast When Damage Taken level 20, Summon Flame Golem level 20. This is just keeping a beefy Flame Golem up all the time pretty much while you're mapping and during bossing, just giving you good flat damage. Then we move to another 2-link in this 4-link setup of Vile Molten Shell linked with increased duration. This is going to be really, really helpful to just keep us very tanky, and we can panic hit Vile Molten Shell whenever we are in a tough situation. Moving on to the last 4-link, we actually have a Warcry setup. Now, we can't actually input either General's Cry or Seismic Cry, but I've decided to temporarily put both of these war cries in here. Now, if you do go read the manifesto or the updates to the war cries in general, General's Cry can be linked to active skills themselves and support gems as well. Just creating really, really good clear using General's Cry, Earthquake, and less duration, and then just having Seismic Cry in there as well to just help with our damage from our Earthquake. Lastly, for the one-handed version of this build, we are finishing up with Shield Charge in our shield or weapon, with Fortify linked and Faster Attack linked. This is just going to give you permanent uptime of Fortify as you're zipping around the map. This seems to be the best setup that we can really put forward at this point for the Earthquake Gladiator, the QUAKENER, but that is pretty much it for the gears and links. And again, definitely check this paste bin down below. Next up, we have the budget gear and links for the two-handed QUAKENER version. Most of the gear is pretty much the same as you would have seen in the one-handed variant. The main reason we are showing the difference here is we have a two-handed Vaal Axe. Once again though, this is fairly easy crafted with the 60% chance for bleeding inflicted with this weapon to deal 100% more damage mod, just with some crafted percent physical damage and some other physical damage on the weapon itself. Very easy. Another budget version, budget axe you can get is the Ulnatol's Embrace Vaal Axe. This is going to be really fun. This is actually an upgraded unique from Ulnatol himself, and it is also being updated in the 3.11 patch, which is very, very exciting. So this is going to be a really good unique weapon that you can use while trying to craft yourself a good rare axe. Again, all of the gear is pretty much just life and resistances, making sure you're getting a little bit of intelligence and a little bit of dexterity on your gear here. And then we're just using a couple of jewels, just with some life and damage over time multiplier. Should be very, very easy to find. The flasks there are pretty much self-explanatory. Just some quicksilver, jade, quartz, basalt, everything like that. We can then move on to the skills. The skills themselves are, again, fairly similar to the one-handed variant, but we have a couple of slight changes. First of all, the main links are exactly the same. We have our Vile Earthquake with less duration, brutality, and deadly ailments. Then Fist of War replacing Melee Fizz, if you do have the Fist of War. And then as a 6th link, using Swift Affliction. This is just going to be great for the bleeds that you are inflicting. We then move on to the chest piece. Now, the chest piece isn't a full 6-link. We are having, in the movement skill, just as a 2-link, is going to be Dash and Second Wind. And then as a 4-link, we are using, once again, our General's Cry, linked with Earthquake and less duration, then moving to Seismic Cry there. With General's Cry, this is going to be used while we are mapping and clearing, and Seismic Cry is going to be used against bosses for great damage. Then moving to our aura setup, again, just very easy Pride, and then Flesh and Stone and Maim linked together. The same War Banner, Blood Rage, Ancestral Protector, and then finishing off with our Cast When Damage Taken, Summon Flame Golem as a 2-link, and then our Vile Molten Shell increased duration as a 2-link again. Very, very simple links. If anything changes with the patch notes that come out, which most likely will, all of these changes will be updated in the Pastebins below in the Path of Building. So definitely come back to this video if there's been changes on the day of patch notes, or maybe the day after. I should get those all up and ready as soon as possible. That is pretty much it for the budget gear and links of both the one-hander and the two-hander variant of the QUAKENER. We are now going to move our way on over to the end game gear and links. Get ready for some pretty sexy DPS. Alrighty, let's talk about the endgame version of the gear and links. First off, there are quite a few different changes to the gear. Basically, you can see quite a few more unique items we are using here. There are quite a few that are best in slot, and quite a few that are basically my own choice. But pretty much, again, with most of the rares, you're just looking for good life and resistances, plus some other stuff as well. But we're going to go through everything in order, starting with the one-handed version. First of all, you're looking to craft a really, really nice Siege Axe. The best in slot for Bleed as a one-handed character is definitely a rare Elder Siege Axe. You're looking for as high physical DPS as you possibly can, with the 60% chance for bleeding inflicted with this weapon to deal 100% more damage, as well as the mod of hits with this weapon have Culling Strike against bleeding enemies is also great. Not needed, but very, very good. A weapon like this is going to cost quite a bit to craft, anywhere between 10 and 30 exalts. Well, we'll see in the next league as well, because it could be a lot easier to craft with all of these juicy harvest crafts. But if you're looking to save up for that, you can just use Jack the Axe Vile Hatchet. Again, it's a pretty nice bleed axe. You're getting so much more out of the one-handed siege axe here, though. Moving on to the shield itself, the best in slot for this build is the Surrender. This just gives a really, really strong Reckoning skill, giving you good life as well, great chance to block, and great armor if you've blocked recently. The helmet can be a Devoto's Devotion. I like to use this helmet because it gives great dexterity to help cap those dexterity requirements, and you're getting good move speed and some chaos resistances. The other thing you are looking for is the 30% reduced earthquake duration helmet enchant, but something like this on a Devoto's Devotion is going to be quite hard to get unless you're farming lab yourself, so keep that in mind. The other good item to have in slot here is just a rare helmet with good life, good resistances, and the nearby enemies take increased physical damage mod. Moving on to the Astral Plate. A really, really good Astral Plate. You're looking for good life, good resistances, having your socketed attacks having negative 15 to total mana cost, plus also with the mod of enemies you kill explode, dealing 3% of their life as physical damage. This is going to be really, really nice, just to improve your clear even more. This couples with the Gladiator Bleed Explosions as well. This is a very, very good chest piece chest piece. Another good chest piece you can use is actually Carcass Jack, which we're going to bring up here. Not nearly as good, but you get great clear with this as well. Much larger area of effect, with some good life and resistances. Gloves, you can use the Blasphemer's Grasp. These are pretty good at giving you damage over time multiplier, but you do have to make sure you do have quite a few Elder items equipped as well to really get the most out of this. If you possibly can as well, getting cursing enemies with level 12 vulnerability on hit here is very, very nice. We then move on to the boots themselves. The boots, again, you're looking for good life, good move speed, resistances, and you can also get the mod Bleeding You Inflict deals damage 10% faster, which is very, very handy. The amulet, you're just looking for damage over time multiplier, good physical damage to attacks, and some life and resistance. This is a very good item slot to have another Elder item for your Blasphemer's Grasp. Your rings themselves as well can be Elder because you can get some pretty nice Elder mods on rings, but steel rings are also the best in slot, getting great physical damage to attacks, good life, and resistances. And that's pretty much it with the rings there. And the best in slot belt, as we all know, Rislatha's Coil is an extremely good physical damage belt. This is going to mean that we're going to be applying on the top end some really, really juicy bleeds with the 45% more maximum physical damage. It's pretty nice. Flasks themselves, pretty self-explanatory. You can use a Bottled Faith, but I've just put that in there just for a little bit of fun. Otherwise, you can just get like a Basalt Flask in here, or a Lion's Roar for more damage. We do have the Cluster Jewels here, but we're not going to talk about the Cluster Jewels right now. We're actually going to talk about the Cluster Jewels in the passive skill tree section, so we can fully see exactly what they are all about. Moving on to the links themselves, we are starting, obviously, with the main skill. Now, Vile Earthquake is very much best in slot, and there's quite a few different Awaken gems that we can use, but keep in mind we are switching Fist of War for melee physical damage when we can. So basically we have our Vile Earthquake linked again with less duration, Awakened Deadly Ailments, Awakening Swift Affliction, Awakened Brutality, and then using Fist of War or melee physical damage. But probably Fist of War, it's looking like it's going to be very, very strong. In our shield, we are using Shield Charge and Fortify, as well as Rage. Now, Rage is also going to be applying not only to our Shield Charge, but also to our Reckoning ability from the shield itself, which is going to be really great. It means that we're going to be stacking up Rage really, really nicely as we're going through the map. Moving on to a 4-link, again, we just have an aura set up with a 4th link here. You can put like an Enlighten in here if you really want, but basically the same Pride, Flesh and Stone linked with Maim. And then another 4-link here, well, actually, I guess a 3-link in our weapon. We've got War Banner, Blood Rage, Ancestral Protector, not linked together. We then have our cast when damage taken set up with our Flame Golem, very, very nice. And then another 2-link of Vile Molten Shell increased duration, which is super, super nice. Here we go. And then last of all, we have our last 4-link, basically with our General's Cry, Earthquake, Pulverize, and then Seismic Cry as well to supplement it. That's pretty much it with the gear and links for this version. We're going to move to the two-handed version. Let's pop on over. Now we have the two-handed endgame version of this build. The items themselves, once again, are very similar to the one-handed version, pretty much the change just being the two-handed Vile Axe. Again, we're looking for really, really good physical damage with the Carling Strike against bleeding enemies and the 100% more damage bleeding mod as well on an Elder item. If you want to have a look at the other items here, I talked about them just in the one-handed sections just a little bit back, so you can go back and check them, but also in the paste bins below. I'm not going to go fully through them. Basically, TLDR, you're looking for physical damage, you're looking for life, you're looking for resistances. Rislatha's Coil, Blasphemer's Grasp, Devoter's Devotion, or a rare helmet, really, really nice. That's pretty much it for all of the gear there. But that does lead us to the links themselves. Once again, very similar to the one-handed variant, but there are a couple of changes. First of all, same goes with our 6-link and our weapon. Vile Earthquake, Awaken Deadly Ailments, Swift Affliction, less duration, Brutality, and then Fist of War is going to be changed here with melee physical damage, but I've just got that there right now to show you the kind of DPS that you are going to be getting. In our body armor, we have a 2-link of Dash and Second Wind, and then a 4-link of General's Cry, Earthquake, and Pulverize, with the 4th slot just being a Seismic Cry there as well. In one of our 4 links, we've got our Pride Flesh and Stone main once again with an open link, Enlighten, or anything else that you want, maybe a portal gem. And we have another 4 link here with an open socket there as well, with War Banner, Blood Rage, Ancestral Protector. These do not need to be linked whatsoever. And then we come lastly to our 2-link Cast While Damage Taken setup, Cast While Damage Taken, Summon Flame Golem, and then our Vile Molten Shell Increased Duration linked together as well. This, once again, seems to be the best option that we can look at right now, but I will say once more, and to finish it off, that any updates will be made in the pastebins down below if patch notes change too many things. That is pretty much all I have to say here, so we are zipping right on over to the passive skill tree section. It's passive time, and we are starting with the one-handed variant of the QUAKENER. We'll start with the Ascendancy itself. First of all, you're looking at taking Blood in the Eyes straight into Gratuitous Violence. This is really going to help you clear through the game and get some really nice damage from your bleeds. This is the best in slot Ascendancy for any sort of bleed character. We are then moving, just for our maximum block, Pain Forged right into Versatile Combatant for the Uber Lab. That's pretty much the order you go. Blood in the Eyes, Gratuitous Violence, Pain Forged, Versatile Combatant. This skill tree itself has quite a little bit of variance to it, but first of all we're going to be looking at the cluster variant, and then I'll show you the no cluster variant, but you can also see here we have a leveling guide through all of these different points. Once again, pastebin down below if you want to follow along. Pretty much all that we're picking up is some good life, as much life as we can, shield nodes coming down here and getting bleed nodes up here into bloodletting, and making sure that we take Soul of Steel. Soul of Steel is just a really, really good survivability node. Coming up here, we're just getting a few passive skill tree points for duels, and we're getting Constitution up into the Marauder section, into Born of Fight, and then these life and armor nodes here. Coming down, we take our 1 cluster jewel setup here, where we can just pretty much get as much as we can into basically hits, damage with hits and ailments. So this is a great one, axe or sword damage and ailments, picking up things like Fuel the Fight, Wound Aggravation, Smite the Weak, and then coming to our medium cluster jewels for damage over time multiplier with physical, Wound Aggravation once again, and Wasting Affliction on both of them, just for really good damage over the time. Lastly, on the block variant, we're looking for some good block chance, small clusters, ending with Confident Combatant, giving us good increased damage per 1% chance to block attack damage, which is very, very strong. Each of these nodes are giving us 75% increased damage. Really strong, as you can see there, full 7.5% more damage for each of these clusters. Very, very strong. Lastly, we come up here, we get getting all of our axe nodes coming up through here, some bleed going into Juggernaut, more axe nodes here, Barbarism, and Resolute Technique. If you want to follow along the actual leveling tree itself, you can do so, starting from 20 all the way through to 100. Or, as just starting out, especially with the budget and endgame version, both being pretty much on the same tree, you want to start off with the one without clusters, because we don't know how hard cluster jewels are actually going to be to get in the next league. So you can see here, basically we're just taking a bit more life up here and a bit more life up here, moving into some good shield nodes around here as well, and down here. That is pretty much it with the passive skill tree for the one-handed variant. Again, follow along with the pastebin below if you want to check it out more in depth. Next off, we have the two-handed version of the QUAKENER. As you can see, the Ascendancy choices are a little bit different. Because we're not going block, we actually take Outmatch and Outlast, and Arena Challenger. The best option is for you to go straight into Blood in the Eyes and Gratuitous Violence, like the one-handed variant, then taking Arena Challenger as your Merciless Lab, then into Outmatch and Outlast as your Uber Lab. That does bring us to the tree itself. As you can see, very similar to the one-handed variant, but we take a few other different nodes here. For the cluster variant, all of these cluster jewels are the same in the large and medium as the one-handed variant, and you can check that in the pastebin below, but then you're just looking for some good life Fettle nodes as well to finish off the small clusters. We're coming down, again picking up all the life we can, going through the two-handed variant option here, down into some life, Dirty Techniques, up into Bloodletting, Soul of Steel, grabbing the full life wheel, up into the life in the Marauder section, more axe nodes with Spitting Strikes, or Splitting Strikes should I say, Bloodless, into Red Storm, Juggernaut, then in Barbarism, Cleaving, Slaughter, and Resolute Technique. And once again, if you do need the leveling trees, they are down below, and there is also the no cluster variant, which just grabs about another frenzy charge here to help with our outmatch and outlast. We also grab iron reflexes for some good armor, and basically just jumping up here, getting Sanctum of Thought, some life, and everything here. To finish this off, the skill tree is going to definitely change coming in the new league. We don't have the data yet for that, but once again, it will follow a very similar outline to this, and the Pastebins will be updated. So definitely come back here the day of or the day after patch notes are released for the 3.11 Harvest League, and I will have updated these all for you so you can follow along even more accurately. That is pretty much it for this section of the passive skill trees. We are now going to move on to some small leveling tips for this build. Let's jump right over. Leveling a new character in a league start can be quite daunting and frustrating, but hopefully these leveling tips are really going to help you push through the endgame as quickly as you can. We will be talking about the gems that you will be picking up in Act 1 through till Act 4, and then Act 6 if we need to pick up any others as well. But first of all, I'm going to talk about a little bit of a crafting recipe that's really going to help you improve your weapons through every stage of the leveling process. For those of you who don't know what crafting recipes is, it's basically selling a bunch of different items to the vendor to output a much stronger item. The crafting recipe we will be using is a physical damage weapon crafting recipe. All you need is the weapon of your choice, any rarity, one blacksmith's whetstone, and then either a magic rustic sash or a rare rustic sash. Now, the magic rustic sash is going to output a lower damage, and the rare is going to output a higher damage, and I'll show you what I mean just in a moment. You can either use an Orb of Alchemy or a essence itself, but I like to use the essences early game to save my Orbs of Alchemy for later stuff. So, if we go to Nessa and we sell these items together, let's try this Jade Chopper. The Jade Chopper with a blacksmith's whetstone and the magic rustic sash. We then output a physical damage weapon. Now, this mod is tier 8, as you can see. With the magic rustic sash, it does output tier 8, but with a rare rustic sash, we output a higher damage tier 7 mod, which is a lot better. So if you can get your hands on a rare rustic sash over a magic rustic sash, it is way better for you. Then basically we just go ahead and click accept, and we have our weapon here. These weapons are actually just enough to get you through to maps pretty much like they are, just as long as you're upgrading your weapon with different base types, the highest level that you can, every 5 to 10 levels doing this same recipe. You're going to be finding plenty of currency to be able to keep upgrading these. Perfect for SSF league starts, hardcore, anything that you want, it's a great little tip. Now we're going to talk about the skill gems themselves. Through leveling, from Act 1 to Act 4, the end of Act 4, you're going to be receiving skill gems when you complete quests. However, also after you complete each quest, you can also go to the vendor in each area, purchase items, and go to tab 2, and you have lots of gems you can choose from. These gems go in order of the level that you obtain them, so top is the lowest level from each act, all the way down to the bottom of the last ones you get in the last missions. But the gems that you're going to be picking up for leveling are pretty simple and easy as follows. The best gem to start off with is Ground Slam. Ground Slam is really going to help you just to work all the way through to picking up Earthquake, and you can link this with things like Chance to Bleed, added fire damage, even Maim as well. That's a really nice either 3 or 4 link there. We can then, for movement, either pick Dash, we can pick Leap Slam, or Shield Charge if we're going with a shield and one-handed weapon. And then to supplement our damage, we can use an Ancestral Protector, and we can also get War Banner as an aura. This is all in Act 1, and we can even pick up our defense as Molten Shell to just cast whenever we need. There's very, very good starting gems for any sort of melee character. Act 1, you can pick up some really, really interesting stuff. Let's jump to Act 2. In Act 2, we are going to be going over and talking to Yena. Yena is going to be getting us a couple of nice things. First of all, we can pick up Herald of Ash for the leveling process for good clear, or even Herald of Purity for more damage. One of our main other links is Flesh and Stone, very nice to pick up, and we can also link Maim that we picked up in Act 1 to Flesh and Stone just for added damage. We are then picking up things like melee physical damage for our main links, as well as picking up Deadly Ailments. And lastly, we can also pick up Rage, and we can put this to either our Shield Charge or our Leap Slam if we're using Leap Slam, just to generate some Rage while we're going through the areas. Alright, let's go to Act 3. In Act 3, we are going to be talking to Clarissa. This is where we're going to be picking up our main skill, Earthquake. Huzzah! Once we get Earthquake, we're going to be able to slam the ground like no tomorrow. We are also going to be picking up Pride, which is a really good physical damage aura, but that is pretty much it that we're going to be picking up here. If you do want a little bit of damage while leveling as well, you can also pick up Vulnerability for some more physical damage against enemies, but that's pretty much it in Act 3. Let's pop over to Act 4, shall we? Petrus and Vanja have everything that you need. If we go over to them and talk to them and go to the second tab, we can pick up our Summon Flame Golem, and we can also pick up our Cast When Damage Taken support. These are going to be linked together. Then just for damage for our Earthquake, we are going to be picking up Brutality. Now there is one more gem that we haven't picked up yet, which is Swift Affliction. I will talk about that in a moment, but I also will talk about the skills that have not been released yet and will be released in 3.11. We don't know exactly where they are going to be situated within the acts, but definitely keep an eye out on the announcements themselves as we get closer, as well as when patch notes come out. They're going to tell you exactly what acts you can pick up. That is the Fist of War support, that is the General's Cry, and that is the Seismic Cry as well. And then that is everything that we do need. But we're just going to quickly jump over to Act 6 because there's one last thing that you should know before we finish up with this build guide. Once we reach Act 6, there is a quest that we can complete at the very beginning of the act to enable us to pick up any skill gems we may have missed. That quest is called Fallen from Grace. This is clearing the Twilight Strand. Basically, the entrance to the Twilight Strand is right down the bottom here. You go and clear the Twilight Strand and you complete the quest from Lily Roth. Once you have done that, you can talk to Lily Roth and you can select any gem that you basically need for your build. For example, we can pick up Swift Affliction, which is very nice. That's one of our links for our main skill for Bleed. As well as you can pick up any of the new skills that will be coming in 3.11, or anything else you might fancy. You can pick them up right from here, and that's going to be super helpful for you. That is pretty much it for the leveling tips themselves, so hopefully that has helped you. Woof! That was a lot of information there, but that is the end of the QUAKENER build guide, everyone. Thank you so much for watching. This is the first in my speculative starter series. Just a couple of things, housekeeping things to end with right here. Obviously, first of all, as I have mentioned in the video, this build is subject to change slightly, but everything will be updated in the description below 1 to 2 days after patch notes are out. So definitely come back here and check that. If you want to ask any questions whatsoever, definitely you can just send them right down in the comments there, or you can jump over to Twitch and catch me streaming live. Over the next few days, we will just be completing the other build guides, as well as doing some league start practice, having a bit of fun with all of that. And I might even let you into some small little secrets I have of some potential overpowered mechanics in 3.11. So definitely come say hi. Definitely hit that subscribe button as well. I know I say this every time, but it really helps me grow and get my stuff out there, and it would mean the world to me if you just clicked that one right there. Until next time, everyone, you have a wonderful, wonderful day, and Badger out.